I hereby call to order the special school committee meeting. We are here at the Dr. William R. Nolan Theater, 135 Belmont Street here in Brockton, 02301. It's Tuesday, October 29th, 2024. We're running just a little bit late. We had a finance subcommittee meeting that went a little bit over, but I need to read into the record the following. This meeting will be held and will be accessible to the public via Comcast Channel 8 and also the 1071 HD version, and online via the following link, which is www.youtube.com/TheBrocktonChannels. I have called to order. I now will establish a quorum. I will just read the roll. Mr. Sullivan? Here. Mr. Vega? Here. Mr. Gomes? Here. Ms. Oliver? Here. Vice Chair? Here. Mr. Sullivan? Here. I'm here as well, and again, we are joined by Dr. Tahiliani, who is acting as our clerk secretary as well. If we could please stand and salute our American flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Agenda 3 is the hearing of visitors. We do only have one individual that is signed in. Michael Gilbert, pastor, please come up to the podium, please. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me at this time. I appreciate it. It's good to know, just want to say it's good to know that outside the city of Brockton, from what we hear and see, maybe in the media, that this room proves that you guys are really making a full effort in correcting and just making our city great. But I'm just going to come in real short. I have about a 30-year career with Shaw's, the Star Market. I was a manager for about 25. So God bless you guys with all these numbers. I remember those numbers. But since then, I've driven and worked for First Student Transportation for about 6 years. I'm now at New Heights Charter School. I work in transportation, and also I do a whole host of mentoring and different things in the city. But I'm here because of my own company. I'm here with my sister on tonight. We own New England Premium Transportation. So it's a 7D vendor. We're contracted with the city. Just over a year and a half old, and I want to address, and I'm thankful for some of the points that were addressed on tonight, and I feel better on tonight that things are getting addressed. But as a small business owner, it's catastrophic. Literally today, just before coming here, we just received our first check from working since September 4th. We just received our first check. We have 2 people on payroll. We exhausted 3 payrolls before the first check came in. If we would have waited till Friday, the city of Brockton would have owed us between $10,000 and $40,000. I'm not going to tell you the exact amount, but it's in that range. So I think just a pay period, and I find it kind of odd, and this is why I want to come out tonight just to feel how it works, that you can put in 40 days of service. We pick up about 13 to 15 special ed students a day, and we love them. We got a relationship with them. We pick up 3 monitors with those children. And I'll be honest with you, I reached out today to about 8 or 10 different school districts because this is not healthy for business. I can't operate and keep paying employees when I'm only getting paid every 40 days. It's just not right. And I got to do what I have to do. But what hurts the most is that these families, because there's families that look up to our drivers when they pull up. The kids are used to us. We do a whole host of other things too. So I just think that on tonight, I think that as contractors and vendors, there need to be something, because we're direct with these families. I mean, we hear them, but as a personal business owner, I can't continue to pay workers out of my own pocket, out of our savings, when we're only getting paid every 40 days. So I just worked another 26 days for the city, and that invoice is coming in Friday. So I guess I'm not going to get paid for that until close to Christmas time, so it's like every 40 days. So I just ask if the city can really help the small people out. I thank God that my sister, we have a lot of things going on, but you know what? Money is money. And I don't think anybody can afford to lose 5 figures. All right. So I appreciate it. I guess that's my time.
Thank you, Pastor.
Don't let a preacher talk.
So that does conclude hearing of visitors. We only had one individual sign in this evening. We will now go on to Agenda 4, which is election of official voting delegate of the MASC Annual Business Meeting. Mrs. Sullivan, please.
We did receive an agenda summary from Dr. Tahaliani, and it did say about the delegate and the alternate. It said past practice has been that the vice chair serves as a delegate and appoints an alternate. I've been on the committee a lot of years, and that's never been the past practice. So we see who's going to go to the convention, and then we nominate people from that group that's going to the convention. So, because not every member goes. So, in order to do it a fair and honest way, we need to see who's going to the convention, and then we need to elect our voting delegate and our voting alternate. But the committee decides. The committee decides.
As chair, do you mind, committee members, if could you just show of hands if you're going on the Cape to the event? 1, 2, 3, 4.
Mrs. Azak is going.
Okay, so there's 5 members. Okay. Mrs. Sullivan?
Okay, so then we can take nominations, right, for the delegate?
Sure, whatever the will of the body is. We know the 5 members that are going, right?
So then they can nominate who they want to be the voting delegate. Well, they nominate people that want to be the delegate, the voting delegate. Is there it? And then you just ask for nominations.
So just so I understand this, so there's going to be a delegate and then an alternate backup, right? So there's 2 members that we have to vote on, right? Out of the 8 members, we know 5 are going to the Cape to the conference. So out of those 5, two of the 5 and 3 will not, but 2 will serve in this capacity. So the 5 that are going, is there, Joyce isn't here, but is there a will of anybody to serve in the capacity as not the alternate, but the permanent member for that purpose? And if so, put your name forward, or you could all.
What, as a voting
Yes,
member?
yes.
Take it.
Sure. Yeah.
And I nominate Anna to be
Okay,
the
there's a
alternate.
motion
Anna.
on the floor. Is there a second on that?
Anna.
Second.
Is motion on the floor to have a voting member, Ms. Oliver. Is there any other nominations of people for voting member? Seeing none, I'm going to close that, and by show of hands, Anna Oliver will be the voting member, please. You're not going to vote for yourself? All right,
You
so
don't want
that has been passed. It's been confirmed. Now, out of the 5, well, now it's 4. Out of the 4 other members, other than Anna, who would like to be the alternate? Is there a nomination, please?
Tim, you want to be an alternate? No, I don't.
Okay.
I'll nominate Mr. Gomes as the alternate.
Will you accept that?
Yeah.
Okay, there was a nomination of Mr. Gomes to be the alternate. Is there a second on that? Second made, I'm sorry, Vice Chair made it. It was probably second by Mr. Sullivan. Any other nominations to be the alternate member? Seeing none, I'm going to close nominations. Show of hands. Claudio Gomes being the alternate member, please. That passes unanimous. Thank you, both of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations. That's a lot of power.
We will now go on to Agenda 5, please. Discussion and potential vote, MOA hyphen BSC and Teamsters Local 653 Warehouse Supervisor.
So I can speak to this MOA. So we did negotiate this with the Teamsters. Actually, this particular position, this regrading of this position actually ends up in cost savings for us because currently we're paying all overtime for these hours. So now it would be in lieu of the 150 weekly premium set forth in the appendix. So you can see how now we will be able to not only save the funds, but also in all fairness to the person who has been in the role and doing the job, then it becomes part of their salary and it's part of their pension, and so it becomes retirement worthy. This is actually a regrade that has been done in similar situations, so we were just asking permission to make this change.
Any questions for the superintendent relative to this matter? Seeing none, is there a motion on the floor relative to this matter?
Motion to approve the MOA, Brockton School Committee and the Teamsters Local 653 Warehouse Supervisor.
Motion was made by Vice Chair Rodriguez, second by Mr. Sullivan. I'll call the roll right now. Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
Mr. Vega?
Yes.
Mr. Gomes?
Yes.
Ms. Oliver?
Yes.
Vice Chair?
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
I'm a yes as well. That does pass. The MOA has been passed unanimously by members present. Agenda 6 is going to be the BPS updates by Dr. Geez, sorry. I'm trying to merge the two. Did you see that? Priya J. Tahiliani, Superintendent of Schools. Thank you, Superintendent.
Thank you.
I know,
Gotta get
that
out
just
of the
threw me
way.
off.
All right. So, oh, did I take?
I'm going to give you that.
So good evening, everyone. I have a very brief update for tonight because we have so many items on the agenda, and I did want to get to our transportation audit. So I want to start by highlighting West Middle School, who honored those who are living with those who survived and those we've lost to breast cancer earlier this month as part of Breast Cancer Awareness Month. We actually had a teacher recently who was diagnosed at West, and so the West community came together for its second annual Pink Day to show support not only for her, but for the women on staff who fought their own courageous battles with breast cancer. I just wanted to, give a shout out to the West and pay our respects to all those who have survived or had to battle breast cancer. And a special shout out to behavior interventionist Lisa Vega, who actually lost her mom to breast cancer several years ago and actually started this tradition to both honor her mom's legacy and bring the West community together. So I just want to, again, join the West community in rooting for the current teacher and also, again, just paying our respects.
That was one of the reasons why I get emotional with this. I'm wearing pink because Elisa is my god sister and my cousin, and her mom was my godmother. And it's unfortunate, but yeah, thank you.
I'm so sorry. Also, a big thank you is in order for the Camos Institute and the Government of Portugal, who have once again made a very generous donation to the BPS Unidos program, including a variety of books. And this year they've added in 170 laptops preloaded with Portuguese language learning software. So we're so grateful to the Institute, the Portuguese government, for their sustained commitment to supporting BPS students in the Unidos program. Also, the Immigrant Assistance Center of Greater Brockton and the Greater Brockton Minority Business Association have actually let us know about new scholarship opportunities for students from minority backgrounds. There are 3 scholarships totaling $3,000 available, which are intended for our students of African American, Haitian, Cape Verdean, Latinx, and Portuguese descent who plan to pursue degrees in business, finance, or related fields. So to apply, students should submit an application form, an essay outlining their career goals, and a recommendation from a teacher who leads a high school club or from a community-based organization. And applications should be submitted by May 15th, 2025 online at gbmba.org or cvassociation.org. Also, I'm pleased to announce that our district leadership team is welcoming new members, and we've done a little bit of a restructure at the cabinet level, or as I've always called it, the district leadership team, so whichever you fancy. To start, I'm excited to announce that Sharon Walder is our deputy superintendent, period. So I just want to thank her for all of her work to support BPS over the years. And all of the incredible support she has provided me in the past 3 months as I've been transitioning in. That same thank you is owed to our assistant superintendents, Karen Spalding, Michelle Connors, Jamie LaBilwa, and Kathy Moran for all their hard work to get the school year off to a great start. And to announce our new members, first, Ken Thompson is joining our leadership team as the Director of Operations. He joined the district as our night facilities manager in late 2012, coming from across the street at City Hall, where he'd previously worked as Mayor Balzotti's chief of staff. Over time, Ken most recently served as our director of facilities, and in his new role, he'll oversee operations district-wide, including technology services, school safety and security, and of course, facilities. Trish Boyer joined us at the start of last school year and has been leading our finance team on an interim basis. But today, I'm glad to share that she has been appointed as the district's new interim chief financial officer. So Trish returned to our finance office last year after having served the Brockton Public Schools for an extended period of time earlier in her career. And by taking on her new role, Trish is officially coming out of her brief retirement, and I'm looking forward to her continued contributions in leading our finance work. And while she does plan to officially re-enter retirement in July of 2025, she will be supporting us this school year as we continue to move towards more sound fiscal practices, and she's done an amazing job, so thank you so much. I'm glad to have her. Finally, joining the district for the first time is our new Director of Strategy and Compliance, Kim Tsai, who comes to the Brockton Public Schools after spending more than 10 years as the Director of Legal Compliance at the Office of English Language Learners in the Boston Public Schools, and 4 years as the Deputy Superintendent of the Everett Public Schools. I've obviously had the good fortune of working with Kim in my previous roles, and I'm eager to partner with her again in Brockton. Prior to joining the Boston Public Schools, Kim worked as a staff attorney at South Coastal County's Legal Services, and before that, she was an attorney working in private practice. So please join me in congratulating all 3 of these new leaders in their new roles with us. I look forward to their contributions to the City of Champions. All right, so I'm going to go right to item number 7, if that's okay, which is the transportation audit. So as you all know, this is item O of recommendations for our other audit. And so we have launched an audit into our transportation services with the independent consultant Transportation Advisory Services. And at this point, TAS has been kind enough to provide us with a draft of the report of their initial findings, but we will receive the full final report soon. However, as promised, I wanted to present you with where we currently are in understanding our transportation services, which, as you know, was also a recommendation of our financial investigation. I'm going to start by reviewing the findings of the audit, and then I'll provide you with an update of some of the work that we have already done. So just to give you an idea of the methodology, TAS conducted its review of the BPS transportation operation using an in-depth approach that included interviews with staff throughout the department, talking to folks who touch every facet of day-to-day operations. They also spoke with me, with building leaders and leaders at central offices. In addition, they reviewed a range of data and documentation, including looking at enrollment figures, policies and procedures, job descriptions, financial metrics, and more. One area that TAS identified was the facility space currently dedicated to transportation. So among the challenges our current infrastructure poses we need to enhance it in order to meet our existing demands. One thing in particular is the lack of on-site fueling, which certainly leads to increased costs and to limited space, and that also another barrier has been limited space for maintenance. Our current facility leads to increased costs as a result of delays in maintenance and labor costs associated with fueling the buses off-site. So according to TAS, by bringing the fueling on-site, we would obviously have more control, or at least some more predictability when it comes to fueling costs, including streamlining our processes and labor costs. TAS also noted a lack of training space for drivers, as well as the need for just more general space to accommodate and support our team of drivers. So really the recommendation here was just to provide more space for general organization with equipment and supplies, maintenance, maintenance and fueling. So TAS also found that we're significantly understaffed on the maintenance side of the transportation operation, though TAS did make a note that the mechanics that we do have are doing an amazing job in spite of the challenges. But TAS recommended a ratio of 1 mechanic for every 15 to 18 buses. And while right now we're actually currently operating with 3 mechanics, so that would be 1 for every 47 buses. So to meet that recommendation, we need between 8 to 10 more mechanics. As it is, we're putting a lot of work on very few individuals, and that workload isn't expected to increase as our relatively new fleet of vehicles ages or potentially grows. So having more mechanics would ultimately allow us to minimize disruptions to service caused by buses going out of service for repairs. Regarding the financial aspects of the transportation department, TAS certainly observed that BPS has been spending too much money on outsourcing our out-of-district runs, which cover everything from special ed placements to school choice. TAS indicated that people directly responsible for trips should have some internal budgetary control and responsibility, and that our current costs for outsourcing are too high and straining the budget, which we are all, we are certainly aware of. So this confirmed that outsourcing will ultimately only become more costly as time goes on, and it already accounts for more than half of the yearly transportation budget, which is higher than many of our peer districts. So these expenses can be better managed through regular review and renegotiation of outsourced transportation fees based on performance metrics. And one recommendation to help save on cost was to look at modifying school start times, though as we know that's a step we would only be able to take after a thorough and thoughtful review of the impacts not only on the budget but also on our students, families, and staff. The fleet itself is comprised of 65 vans, 8 wheelchair buses, 6 minivans, and 62 large buses. So TAS noted that BPS lacks any spare buses, which can cause operational inefficiencies when unexpected maintenance issues arise. We also are without a bus replacement plan, and in order to mitigate the impact from the fleet, which will be aging over time, TAS does recommend that we develop and implement a plan for fleet replacement and to ensure that we're self-sufficient in our maintenance of the fleet. So some of the things that we would need to consider in building that plan are vehicle age, costs to maintain, and the fleet's ability to meet the needs, and what our options may be for trading in older models. So we currently own our whole fleet, but TAS did recommend exploring leasing buses going forward for budgetary reasons, including predictable monthly payments, as well as the potential to include maintenance support in lease agreements so that we can reduce our operational costs and our maintenance costs. From a labor standpoint, TAS encourages prioritizing mutually beneficial terms in future collective bargaining agreements, which could include attendance incentives to reduce drivers calling out of work, which can then make it challenging to cover routes as we've seen. We also should look at clarifying and codifying the trip selection process so that it's more transparent and fair. And finally, clarifying our processes and procedures will help us to operate more efficiently and avoid potential misunderstandings among staff, as well as avoid grievances filed by our members. And from a management perspective, the recommendations centered around increasing staffing to increase efficiency, citing again the need for more mechanics. They also stated that we need more administrative support and a more defined reporting structure in order to improve oversight and management. Communication was also outlined as an area where we have the opportunity to grow, with TAS encouraging annual meetings among transportation staff, building leaders, and key district leaders overseeing special education and athletics. One key area TAS identified as needing improvement is also our routing process, which incorporates our routing software as well as the clarified trip selection process that I mentioned before. Additionally, TAS identified the need for more formal accountability procedures in place in the form of clearer roles and expectations, clearer communication, and a better defined process for out-of-district runs that will help us all to do a better job and to better meet the needs of our students and families. And finally, to drill down a little bit more on the routing issue, so I did mention the need for routing software to better optimize planning and have that be more data-driven. And while we do utilize Versatrans, we need to identify if we're leveraging it to its best ability or if we might need to think about another software. Speaking of data, TAS also recommends conducting audits of ridership at least 3 times per year to see where our needs are and what might make sense in terms of consolidating those routes with lower ridership. Another item for us to look at is regional partnerships for out-of-district runs and seeing where there might be options to collaborate with neighboring districts to make those more cost-efficient and more time-efficient. Looking at routing inside the district, there's also room to incorporate more driver feedback into that process, as well as known best practices that we can implement, like reducing turnaround points and reducing student time spent on the bus. Finally, we're encouraged to be a bit more creative from one year to the next in designing our routes rather than doing what we do currently, which is kind of keeping routes fundamentally the same year over year with some minor changes. So again, this is just the draft of I just wanted to be able to at least provide the initial findings. Currently, they are being read and reviewed by the Transportation Department, as I'm sure they will have a lot of clarifying questions or maybe even identify some places where there's inaccuracies or need additional information. So when I do have the full final audit, you will certainly receive it, and it will have all of that subsequent information. But some of the things that I did want to talk about so far are just some of the improvements we've completed and some that are ongoing. So we have negotiated an MOA to designate a driver as a trip steward. This is actually on tonight's agenda, and this is specifically to address some of the concerns we've had about bidding on routes, and would help us as it would identify one driver as the steward who would then support us with that to make sure that it is following the appropriate seniority pattern, and that there's, and that also then that's the members taking, ownership of that process. So we did work with them on that. So that seems like a collaborative way to solve that problem and to ensure we're not doing it inappropriately or receiving grievances. Also, we did secure the lease for the bus depot, so that's good news. We did engage in a more competitive process for special ed transportation. Again, still not perfect, but we are looking forward to, again, moving forward on that later this year. We also transparently, again, communicated to the Transportation Roundtable, as I said before, that we would delay going out to bid for special ed transportation, again, in order to make sure that we were getting students to school by the start of the school year, and as we waited for the results of the audit. So since I already talked about that in the prior meeting, this is where I was going to talk about it, but basically everything I said before. All right, so the ongoing improvements that we're working on is we continue to participate in the biweekly Transportation Roundtable meetings, and that includes the mayor and the mayor's team, city council president, vice chair, and so we will continue to do that. We are also considering what negotiations would look like potentially for a one-year agreement to see if we can build in some greater efficiencies in operations. And as I mentioned, TAS is supporting us in the creation of an RFP for special education transportation. We also are garnering feedback from our bus drivers, as was recommended. Actually, they have a lot, as they are boots on the ground, they have a lot of great ideas for more efficiently routing. And so it was really interesting to have a conversation with them, and I think we do need to open that line of communication. I think a lot of the solutions actually may be right with them. Even where it comes to Versatrans, like one question I asked is there a better software out there that you know of? And they actually were like, no, you just need to be able to take a human eye and look at the routes as they come out of Versatrans and really see what makes sense. So really what it needs is somebody who knows Brockton. And many of them do. So they have offered their support, and they've offered to have regular meetings with me to provide me with more feedback so that we can really try and do this right. Also, we're gathering fueling data from our drivers and our fuelers so that we can receive our fuel from DPW, who is going to make a schedule specifically for us so that we can get all of our buses fueled there, as it would cost 25% of the cost that we incur at other places. So they are going to support us by making sure there's a schedule built so that they have the appropriate amount of gas, because obviously we're using a lot of gas. And so they're working with us on that, and we appreciate that support. We also, in addition to creating the fueling schedule with DPW, we are also obtaining state-issued fuel cards. So that will also help with not only cost savings, but with the procurement, because one of the things that we also need to do is go out. We have not followed an appropriate procurement process for fueling in the past 3 years. So we secured the bus depot, and now our next thing is to go out for our fuel. And then just to give you an idea, so when we did do the the bids earlier this year. And I directly had eyes on them and worked with the transportation department. We did get a lot of bids for each route. So a route would go out, especially for our door-to-doors. We would get anywhere from like 4 bids on a route to 34 bids on a route. And we picked, as I mentioned before, the one that was least costly. And so that, we did verify that, we were picking the most economical price. And so that has led to, again, very modest cost savings. But I know there were some concerns about inflated prices for some of the private vendors. And so we hope to at least have addressed that. And that brings me to the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Very much, Superintendent. Any questions for Dr. T at this time? Mr. Vega, followed by Mr. Sullivan, please.
What was the auditor? Did the auditors examine, do a cost comparison on what we're currently doing versus what it might look like if we got out of the bus business?
That's what we're still waiting on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay,
and I know that's a pretty important one.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. Also, in the conversation around leasing, that recommendation that going forward, if we remain in the bus business, to lease future buses, does that come also with the idea of leasing diesel buses?
Oh, that's a good question.
Because I've had a number of folks that work within transportation reach out, and they're all scratching their head about why we own a fleet of gas buses. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sullivan, please.
I think to answer Mr. Vega's question, we ordered the buses before the electronic buses even were rolled out. I think that's...
Oh, no, they're saying they want diesel, like, which
or
is
the
the
diesel
traditional,
buses, I don't know if
bus.
it's electronic or
traditional.
The gas price point so much higher for
Yeah.
diesel.
We had ordered the buses before that whole thing came out. So I believe.
And what was interesting, and again, maybe it would be in the final report, is there are a lot of grant programs right now for transportation companies to move to electric buses. I was expecting to see something like that in the audit. Again, we don't have the final audit, but it'll be interesting to see because that was not, but to your point, it wasn't mentioned at all. So as far as diesel and electric, I will certainly follow up and make sure that's in the final report.
It wasn't a question, just one more thing though, because Bristol Aggie was, it's supposed to be Norfolk Aggie that we transport to. We don't transport to Bristol Aggie that I know about. Bristol Aggie would be out of our, Norfolk Aggie is the one that's in our.
You were correct.
Pastor just said Norfolk, right? Thank you, Pastor.
Yes,
No,
Bristol
thank you.
Aggie, our
Sorry
students
about
aren't eligible for because they're out of the county district or whatever. I don't know.
That would have been my typo, sorry.
Yeah, so we just got to fix that to Norfolk Aggie.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Ms. Oliver,
You're
please.
welcome.
I think we've been waiting for this audit for a very long time. I think the past school committee has been asked for this audit for a very long time. And I think if the transportation department had started the way it should have been started and not the way the investigation portrayed it was started, we would have been in a different situation than we are now. But now I like the fact that you have a plan that we can move forward, and maybe once we have an answer how it would look if we basically dissolve it and restart it or just basically move away from it, then we can get an idea how to move forward. Just to, from the pastor having a conversation up there, it hurts, your conversation, to basically waiting on us to be able to pay you so you can feed your family. It's unacceptable. It is unacceptable that we have 70 vendors waiting for us to feed you, for you to be able to provide for your family. That is unacceptable. It's embarrassing for the city of Brockton, the city of Champion, that we cannot pay our bill. I am now speaking to the family of kids that have kids on IEP and 504. Tomorrow when you wake up, you should call your city councilors and demand that they stop what you're doing to make sure they don't do this. They need to pay these vendors bill. No more delaying, no more playing games, no more this ego nonsense, no more this back and forth with us. They are stopping normal people from paying their bills. This is a game they keep playing, but there's real people out there that cannot pay their bills. They're hindering our kids from eventually, because they're gonna stop serving our kids. When they cannot serve our kids, now you have parents in this city that will no longer be able to go to work because they have to find someone to either take their kids to school or they have to stay home. You know what happens when they stay home? They don't get a paycheck. You know, when they don't get a paycheck, now they can't afford to pay their own bill. Now they lose their own home. This is the game that some city councils are playing with our kids' education. No more. And you know who you are. So our kids in IEP and 504 is not a game to be played with. So every mom that lives in this city or parents, we know our rights. We know our rights. We're educated. We're no fools. We're doctors. We're nurses. We're lawyers. We're educated. We're hardworking parents. Don't play us for fools. So tomorrow you call, you email them to pay these bills. That pastor and every 70 vendors should not wait 40 days to get a paycheck so they can put food on the table and pay a rent. It's unacceptable. Thank you.
Any other questions for Dr. T relative to this? Mr. Gomes, followed by Vice Chair, please.
They've asked most of the questions I wanted to ask. One of the things that I wanted to look at was the idea whether, moving in-house or keep using outside transportation would be beneficial. The other thing too, I'm curious with some of the findings that we saw in terms of facility and even like leasing, because some of these are things we could start, planning. So once we get the final audit, so like, okay, we have a plan we can implement. What are some things that we are starting to think about if we have in terms of the facility? They recommend having a bigger space and even hiring more mechanics and support staff. So what are some of the things that that we are planning out to alleviate the pressure from that?
So, Mr. Gomes, I can just, on behalf of the superintendent, she mentioned DPW commissioner, and his name's Pat Hill. Mm-hmm. When I was meeting with Priya recently, I asked Pat to come in, and he was thinking outside the box to try to do cost containment, right? Mm-hmm. And I didn't know this. It's 25% less if you use the city gas, and so that's what the doctor was just saying. Like, there's going to be a schedule for the buses. But the other thing I asked Pat to do is look around for city-owned properties, mm-hmm. just in case we don't blow this up and get rid of the buses and go back. We need to find something because the fairgrounds is going to be developed. We need to have something that we own, right? Mm-hmm. He's come up with some property, actually in the ward off of Summer Street. Some of it's wet, but it's about 13 acres. He's going to be working with the assessor, John O'Donnell, to see exactly how much. It actually runs from behind the Davis School off mm-hmm. of Plain, and it goes all the way. It's a massive piece of property that when the late mayor, Bill Carpenter, was mayor, he wanted to make some of it as a soccer field. So I just want to let you know that nothing's decided yet, mm-hmm. but there is, he believes, 13 acres out of the 30-something plus acres that would be dry and would be able to accommodate. Now, it would cost us millions to clear cut, and we'd have to get DEP, but at least it's something we could think about.
Yeah, okay. And the
behind Davis School?
Off of Plain Street, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
This is just a simpler.
No. He's just looking at any property he can find.
Simpler questions. I know this has come up in the past. I know we have some systems installed on our buses, and not too long ago, I was in one of those buses. We took a trip on them, and I was, chatting with the bus driver, and some of those systems they said were not operational, not in the fact that it wasn't working, but they were not using those as of yet. How are we doing in terms of that?
Yeah, not great. And that is not the fault of the bus drivers. That is something that we need to do as a district. There have been updates to, my understanding is that there were updates to those devices that have not been made, that have made it difficult for them to use those devices in the way that they were meant to, because my understanding is they have a lot of functionality that we're unable to use. So that is certainly something that we need to address.
Okay.
Any additional questions, Mr. Gomes?
I'm all set. Thank
Okay,
you.
Vice Chair, please.
Thank you. First off, before I start, I just want to give a public shout out to all of our private vendors that are providing transportation to our students, and also to our bus driver fleets that are, taking our students to and from school and, different events across the city. But just to, one of these things is that, when this bus transportation first originated from, it's unfortunate, that, if we go back and, we just have to move forward. But, this was a request of us voting twice to put out an RFP relative to transportation to see what those costs are. And certain things didn't happen. It's very upsetting that it didn't. We have ordinances, and, the main focus of this body is to make sure that we have accountability and to save as much money as possible, because, like I said, we're taxpayers, we're paying for this as well. So why would we want those costs to go higher than what they are? Just another point of information. We did have a bus depot when we did this, but to me, there's a lot of red flags of why that didn't happen. That's a different, conversation that's beyond our authority, that I think that should be looked into as well. And, we get a lot of calls from bus drivers. The routes are not done right, so it's just a question of like what's going on. We know it's new and then we're gonna have hiccups, but we have a new superintendent, and obviously give her that opportunity to rectify that. That's why she's here, and this committee moved into that direction. But I think when it comes to efficiency and running any department across the district, including our educators, anybody that works in our buildings, the leadership needs to listen to them, because they're the ones that are doing the groundwork. As you know, that we're not involved into the day-to-day operations of what's really going on in the district. So I have my own opinions on transportation. I know some of the members will be down at the MASS conference. I know Worcester has a unbelievable program. They're actually the one that makes the presentation, so I believe they will be on the agenda to present in the breakout room down at the conference of how they run their transportation department and how it's efficient. So if Worcester is bigger than us and they can run it efficient, what's Brockton's issue? We have to wait until this audit is complete to get those numbers and what does it really look like for us. And money-wise, if it doesn't make sense, there's no need to have a transportation department. If it does, how do we get there? And you can't blow it up overnight, so kids still have to get to school. But the other piece is that, not to just dwell on another governing body, is that we know who the individual is, but the individual is somebody that does transportation, that works for a transportation company, to create an ordinance like that. It doesn't. Be careful. It doesn't. No names, but it doesn't. It's not conducive to us when you're in that line of work to. I say overreach on that. So, but we look forward to the audit and address it in a timely fashion to make sure that we save the city some funds. And how does that look? What does it look like? So, but transportation is one of those things that, as the mayor knows, we have these roundtables, and it gets really frustrating when we're having these meetings and we don't see no progress, like what's going on. So, and it also starts at the management level too, to make sure that they are following our collective bargaining. That's why I had a question, do you follow that? Because it does come, it's costing us in other areas. So, but that's up to the superintendent. That's her job to make sure she holds those employees accountable to make sure it's running efficient.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. Any, Mr. Sullivan, I'm sorry.
Yes, on the spare buses you were talking about in the audit. What happens now if a bus breaks down? It can't run? Routes canceled?
Well, so there are a couple different things so I mean, I will say that the transportation department is like very creative, but there have been times, so we don't have enough spares, but there are a couple things. So if a bus can't run or if a bus driver calls out, you know, we do have to cover those routes. And we either pick it up with another bus driver and combine routes, or we run one right after the other, which is sometimes explains, you know, a late bus route. Or there have been times when we have had to call on private transportation if we couldn't make anything else work. But their goal is always to keep it in-house first and to be creative with the resources we have, and resources being other buses and other bus drivers.
When you say private transportation, are you talking about regular school buses?
No, yeah. Well, I guess that's a good question, actually.
Be vans and the minibuses.
Yeah, most
It
likely.
wouldn't be the
But
massive school buses.
Which they'll be
We'd have
doing the
time to do
routes?
yeah, I think if it's the massive school buses, then we just have to run the route one after the other.
Okay.
Yeah. Because we don't have any private vendors that have massive buses.
What is, in your plans, are there plans for, to get spare buses?
Well, I think, again, that's part of the cost analysis. And I think it depends on what our long-term plan is. Because, yes, if we're going to, and I know there was a plan to actually purchase more buses this year. I think that was a conversation at some point. But I think it's really important to figure out what our long-term plan is going to be and then determine what our short-term plan or how we're going to get there.
Okay, thank you.
Just point of information, Bat Bus, as mayor, I chair the Bat Bus Corporation. Bat Bus just got 2 electric buses. There is a lot of grant money from the feds right now for electric buses. Senator Warren, our senior senator, she's been really pushing this. So if it does come to the conclusion that we're going to continue this process, we should turn over every leaf to get some federal funds, and we can reach out to the delegation on that. Any additional questions relative to this matter? Seeing none, thank you, Superintendent. We'll move on. Agenda 8 is new business. Any new business before us tonight? Seeing none, we have number 9, other business. I just had 2 pieces of information. For those that still go trick-or-treating with their children, this Thursday is Halloween, and I'm going to be out there dressed as Iron Man with my youngest. But from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. is the trick-or-treating hours. So again, we've been posting on the website. I know BPS has been doing it as well, but again, it's 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. is the official hours in the city of Brockton. Please be safe, because there is a lot of vehicle traffic out there. I want to thank Chief Brenda Perez. She's going to have the traffic fleet out there to make sure that the boys and girls are safe crossing the streets. But again, it is 4 to 7. Last thing, I wanted to give all the members an MSBA update. We, meaning Priya, Tony, myself, Ken Thompson, Troy Clarkson, Jim Plouffe, who's our building commissioner, and then the president of the city council, Moises Rodriguez. We interviewed today in the GAR room upstairs. We started at 11 a.m. We concluded almost at 3 p.m. The process is, as spelled out by MSBA, is to come up with an OPM. We have interviewed 3 entities today, well-known entities that are OPMs, owners, project managers for the project, but it wouldn't be for the actual build quite yet. It's for, remember, we're doing right now the feasibility study, but MSBA requires that. I want to thank 2 people. I want to thank Mike Morris and then Celia Canavan in my office, Government Affairs. They have been dedicated to this. I mean, we were there for hours, but it took them hours to prep before that. So again, we'll continue to work on that, but I just want to let you know, all of us were there today. I want to thank Doctor. I want to thank you, Vice Chair. I want to thank Ken. I want to thank Dr. Clarkson over there. And Troy, congratulations on your PhD. And again, Jim Plouffe, because we were all there today, and we spent a lot of time on that. And I also want to thank the 3 entities. I won't name them, but I want to thank them for coming in. They have a strong interest in supporting this endeavor. It's a legacy project, but again, I just wanted to give you an update on the MSBA. Any other business? Vice Chair, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One of the other business that we'll take up at our next committee meeting, I know the mayor supports this, is I want to make a request and actually take a vote of this body to request that the state auditor come in and do a top to bottom review of the school district. and also incorporate not just the school district, but also for the city side to do the same, which will need a vote of the council of the whole city. The main reason why this should be done is what we're dealing with. And I think we need an agency to come in and basically look at top to bottom practices of the school district and also with the city, because the notion is that you know, the school department is causing the constraints in the city, which it's not. And I'll say that again and again and again. It's not a school issue, it's a city issue. So there's other departments that are not being looked at, and I feel that it should be looked at. And the other piece about it is that if you look at the city side investigation, it was specifically supposed to be on finances. And I will always ask the question why it had a certain issue relative to a student, inappropriateness with a staff member, which that has nothing to do with finances. And it's interesting why that piece was in there. And I think that we need state intervention to come in and look at books, policies across the board, because this isn't something that happened last year, the year before, but it's been happening for a long time. And I hope this body does support that. And I hope, you know, the mayor supported it. I know some of the councilors, but if the council doesn't, I would say this, if the council doesn't support this, what are you hiding? You are a representative and you represent the community, and this is what the community wants to see, and I think that should happen. So that's why.
Just point of information, it's not on the agenda tonight, it will be on the next agenda. And remember, because of the November 5th election, we will not be meeting again until November 19th, but that will be on the agenda. And just for point of information, when the deficit came to light, summer of 23, I reached out to Diana DeZaga, the state auditor. They have an office on Belmont Street here in Brockton, actually in the fairgrounds, right on 123. The process is that you have to invite the auditor into the city, which I was doing, but then you need a lawful vote, a majority vote of the city council. So what the vice chair said is right. Only the city council can do the final ability to bring the auditor in, if she decides to come in, her entity. But just wanted to let you know it will be on the next agenda item. Any other matters, Vice Chair?
The other one, I know we had a little brief conversation on that. I'm waiting on the city side to send, actually, I'm not waiting, but I'm going to speak on behalf of the football group that hosted 2 carnivals, which raised some funds. At this moment right now is $19,300 some change that was actually raised, but they're waiting for the city side to send some invoices so they can close out their account for the last event. And the football group is going to be donating 100% of all those revenues to the school district, where this committee, hopefully you guys accept it and take it in where it's supposed to go directly to the students. So once we get those, they get those invoices, they'll close out that event, and then they could send the final payment, and the representatives from the football group will come here and make a presentation to the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. I believe I'll talk to the police chief tomorrow. I believe they're looking for detail invoices for police details that were there on site for safety. So I'll talk to Brenda Perez in the morning. But thank you very much. Any other new business before us? Mr. Sullivan, please.
Yes, I wanted to mention the Charity Guild, which took place just about a week ago. As everybody knows, there's been a ton of negative reports on Brockton Public Schools. We're doing a ton of things wrong, according to people, not according to me. But it was a great event, but the highlight of the event was the Brockton High School dancers and singers. I know you were there, Mayor, and you, Tony. But I was proud to say, they're from Brockton High. Nobody could believe it. With all the negative reports that were going on all through the year, people were astonished at how these kids acted. It was just unbelievable. I just wanted to mention that. And, I take my hat off to Matt Cunningham and his dancers and singers. They did a great job, and it made my night that night. It was fabulous. Thank you. Just
to piggyback on that, I want to thank Bob Hogan and Matt Cunningham, Carol Thomas. As you know, last week, Vinnie Macrina, 48 years, employee, was recognized in the Nelson Auditorium. It was the Rotary. It was also the music department. But there was a lot of alums that came back. that played their instruments. They sang, they acted. It was a good night in the city of Brockton. So, Mr. Macrina, congratulations. Anything else before us? I'm sorry, Mr. Sullivan.
I just wanted to mention that today I saw a really amazing thing going on at Brockton High with students cleaning the courtyards. And I've never, ever seen that. And I think that is awesome when we have our students doing service to our grounds and our buildings. I want to thank Mr. McGaskill because he is here. Principal McGaskill is here tonight. I want to thank him for getting those students to clean the courtyards. That's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Principal.
One more.
Sure.
Just to, tomorrow, the CTE program will have an open house at the high school. I believe it's at 6 to 7, 6 to 8. And then also at Marciano Stadium, we do have our middle school football championship game for the city. So I believe it's West and North. I got to double check that. I know West is there because we went to West, so
there.
we represent West Side. So if members of the community, those that are listening, and hopefully Jordan can put something on the school webpage that they can go and support these students because it's playing at Marciano Stadium. If those that never played it, it's an unbelievable atmosphere just to see these young students playing for a championship. So.
Well, we want to wish them all well, win or lose, they're champions. But I have to give a shout out to my next door neighbor who was the quarterback for West Middle School, Nathan Owen. Good luck tomorrow, buddy. So with that being said, is there any other new business?
One more amazing thing that happened
Okay.
is the band was on Marciano on the weekend.
Yeah.
And I know the middle school students were involved.
Yeah, they were.
And my neighbor is a middle school student, and she was so excited that she made friends with Brockton High band students. And I said to her father, now she has to go to Brockton High because she's wearing her red and black and she's all into the boxes. The father was like, she's only in the 6th grade.
Ms. Oliver, please.
Yeah, it was the band. It was the band day, and my daughter plays saxophone in the 8th grade and so. And go Boxers! They won. It was a good day.
Yeah.
It was packed. It was
packed.
really packed that day, and I was glad that everybody came out and watched. So yeah, they're really good.
They're really good.
They're really good.
Add on to that, that's a great way to get the middle school students to get interest in Brockton High. We've been trying to do that for years, even since you came on, Tony, that we've been trying to get middle school kids in that easy little way that they did it with the band is got to do more things like that to get middle school students interested in going to Brockton High.
It was a very
Yeah.
great event.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Homecoming and Legacy Day. Thank you to the football program, Kevin, with his team putting on, with all the vendors that were there.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable. So next year, it just keeps getting better and better.
I got to give a shout out to the middle. My son also was playing the trumpet at middle school at West, but they had to get to Brockton High at 9 a.m. and the game wasn't until 1. So God love all those middle school kids. They were focused and it was great. Yeah. It was great for everybody. So thank you again. We will continue to move on. Agenda item 10 is executive session. I do have to read 2 matters into the record. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining, where an open meeting would have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the school committee. Teamsters Local 653, School Bus Drivers Unit. And then the second matter is pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 38, 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation, where an open meeting would have a detrimental effect on the committee's litigating position. And this is D. Rodriguez and D. Rodriguez v. R. Sullivan et al. I need to have a motion to go into executive session.
Motion to go into executive session.
Mr. Sullivan made it. Mr. Gomes properly seconded it. We now will call the roll.
On the motion, just for the record,
the motion.
the D. Rodriguez and D. Rodriguez is no relation to me, so just put that on record.
Duly noted. We will call the roll now. Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
Mr. Vega?
Yes.
Mr. Gomes?
Yes.
Ms. Oliver?
Yes.
Vice Chair?
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
I'm a yes as well. I just have to let everybody know we will not be coming back in open session. We'll go into executive session now. We'll go to the room that we always go in the back. I know Attorney Spotterford is here as well. Thank you.